right, so I just got this on with the hammer, and I'll take it out of the vise. Hang on, guys, because I know every other video out there showing how to do this, every other video says you need to either make that tool or buy your own, or you're gonna beat the living piss out of this and dent and smash up all this stuff here. Well, not a single dent, guys. It's not beat up. And if you look at it, God, this is so hard to record with one hand, but it spins beautifully. Very nice and free. Already greased up in there. So you got, it comes with grease in there, but the grease that it comes with looks cheap and they don't use enough of it. So this is a good chunk of that's open anyway. So it'll help keep some dirt out of there too. All right, anyway, everyone says you need a tool to do this and you can't just do it with a vise and a hammer. So I'm gonna do that on time lapse just to show you guys that it is absolutely doable and you can do it without obliterating the hell out of your seal. All right, I'm just gonna do it in real time, guys, so I can kind of explain a little bit along the way what's going on, because you do kind of got to fight it on with the other hand. Like one hand you're trying to hold, you'll see it, you kind of got to hold the pressure back. It's gonna fight you every time you hit that hammer. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. And it's gonna be like pulling those studs. It really doesn't want to go on at first. Yeah, I got a good view there. Yeah, it really doesn't want to go on at first. Every time you hit this side, it wants to pop off that side and the other way around. So you really got to hold it and fight it. But once you get it on about 1/4 inch, you're laughing, you're golden. Let's see if I can get a little bit of a better angle here. Okay. So yeah, here's our part. It's totally dry. Honestly, I find just putting a little coating, like the thinnest little touch, is enough. If you have too much grease, it fills in too much of the space, and yeah, then you're just fighting to fill that grease gap rather than trying to get the seal on. So I always hit everything, every part I'm working on, always, even if it's a greased part, unless it's bearings or something you can't get inside of with grease, I always hit it with brake cleaner. Get all the dirt, grime, and crap off it, and then if you do want it lubed up, you can go do that afterwards on your own, because you don't want to trust that old dirty stuff or any oxidization that started to occur while you're got your parts set aside until you got your new things in that got to go in on it. All right, so yeah, I don't know if you guys seen that, but it's such a thin layer. It's almost non-existent. So the trick here is you need to get a hammer that has a small enough head that you can ride. See this one? It's got a small enough head that when it rides down the shaft, I'm only hitting about that much. I'm still a good, half of this plate away from that bendable ridge. So I started it on a little bit of an angle off to the opposite side you're going to hit, obviously, and you just want to hold and apply pressure there. You don't even have to push it down or let it slide up. You just want to hold it steady, and then you'll drive this down the shaft until we start tapping it on. And I'll bring the camera over to show you as we go along. See, and it's already fighting to pop up on this side, so we'll come around. Same thing, hold the pressure over here. And you just keep slowly working around as it tries to lift that. You want to have the end you're hammering the slightest bit higher than everything else and keep just chasing that tall end around. Constant pressure applied on the backside though, where you will slip it up. Remember, this is saving you guys $100 tool. If you just gotta press one of these on, don't go waste your money on that tool. If you're gonna be 4x4 and changing hundreds of these throughout your lifetime, yes, absolutely invest in it. It is a good investment if it'll be put to use. But in my case, I got a lot of parts I need to buy for this project. So anything I can get away with not buying at the moment, I'm trying to do, so I can put more money towards better parts and not tools. Because if I can do it without a tool I have, I will get it done with a tool that if I can get it done with a tool that I have, I'm not going to go out and buy one that I don't need. I did buy one for pressing universals, but that's because I go through drive shaft at least once a year, or my universals, because I'm hard on my truck, so that's worth it. But yeah, let's get back to it. If you guys think I'm making it look too easy, it does pop off. It's not stuck on there right now, but if you look, see it's that blue coating on there? That's what's basically, they put that on there. It's a type of Teflon or something. I can't remember exactly what it is. Some kind of special paint that seals this on there. So without that, it's pretty much perfect. By the micrometer, it's almost dead on without that blue. So that blue is just slowly peeling away, which will happen when you press as well. So if we just keep working that blue ring, and no, you don't want to go in and just trim it out, because you do want certain parts of that blue on there. It fills up what it needs to fill. So I'm just showing you guys that it does pop off. So just restart it every time and be patient. You're saving yourself $100 to spend about 10 minutes of effort. There she goes. All right, so I'll give you guys a little close-up. So once you see, we're about halfway on now. And you can see I nicked it one little spot there. But all that does, that's not a friction point. All that does is you got your thrust washer, they'll seat here once I get this down. So there'll be a tiny bit of a gap on this metal, and it's this rubber that actually rides against your hub. So yeah, that little nick doesn't matter, but as you can see, it's looking good. And now that we have it to this point, now I almost don't even have to brace the opposite side. But normally when I was hammering, I'd be bracing this side, hammering that side. When this gets lower, you just slowly chase the high side. Like right now, even though this is the high side, I would slowly start chasing my way up to it. And then if over here turns to the high side, I would slowly start chasing my way up to there. And then just apply Like I said, not too much pressure or you're just gonna pop the opposite side of the ring off. Hold just the right steady amount of pressure to hold it in place while you're hammering the other side. All right, let's see how much longer it takes to get this one pressed on there. And so far this only had 8 minutes and I've been talking and pissing around. So if it takes less than 20 minutes to do 2 seals, I think that's well worth saving yourself $100 on that part. Or sorry, that tool. And honestly, even if I changed 3 more of these in my life, I don't know if that $100 is worth it for that. Like I said, drive shaft universals and all that. Sure, I'll go through a few of those. I know I'll do at least 20, 50 of those in my life, but yeah, honestly, I like to have nice seals. I probably will get one, but point is, guys, absolutely doable. You can save the money. You don't have to wait till you can go out and buy that tool. If you get these in and run into troubles, you don't have to cut the day off and be like, shit, now I gotta go get that tool. You can watch this video, hopefully. Make sure you like and share it if it did help you, but it's doable, guys. A hammer and a vise. Alright, one last thing to show you guys and tell you before I end this video. Just a little tip. Remember I was saying the thresh washer seats on here? So it will bottom out. And you have a little gap about that big. You have the same gap on the hub, and that's actually to fit your thrust washer. Your thrust washer is what you want to lay down grease on this, put your thrust washer down, put grease on the other side of your thrust washer. So like I was saying, none of this seal will rub a little bit, the rubber, but none of this contacts. It still spins beautifully freely. The only spot that got a little chewed up was right on the inner part. And that was just because I started getting a little feisty with it, but you can definitely avoid that if you're a little more patient. But like I said, that is a non-friction point. That's a non-friction point. The only friction point is actually between this sleeve here and this point. So as long as you don't bend that sleeve too deep, and if you look underneath, all of your friction points are underneath. So we're actually totally working off the side without all the friction points. This would be the dangerous side, sketchy side. So yeah, anyway, you'll feel like you're bottoming out, and it looks like it should go another millimeter or so. Don't beat the shit out of it trying to close that gap, because it's not going to happen. That gap is supposed to be there. You'll notice when you bottom out and when you do stop, because you do need this spot for your thrust washer. That is what's going to take all the friction between the hub and this seal. And then yeah, your bearing on your hub rides on this, and then you'll have your thrust washer between your hub and your hub bearing, your wheel bearing or axle bearing. So leave that gap there, guys. All right, I'm gonna get the other side pressed on. I'll get a shot of that, and we're ready to slide these into the truck. All right, guys, just in case you haven't done one of these ones. So we got the big one. This is the one that's gonna be riding against the hub, and this is the one that's gonna be on the inner axle. So you got your big flange on this side and your small flange on this side. You want your small flange to go towards your ball joint. So just like that, big flange up, small flange down. And then yeah, this one I'm not gonna oil or anything down here because I've already done that before. It's just dry now. So yeah, I'll just pop her on there. And then this one we should honestly be able to work on by hand. Let's see how it goes. These ones can be tough though, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm just saying, we'll try and get it started by hand. Because they do sometimes go for you. And it looks like this one's going to. Same deal as before, but just minus the hammer. You kind of get one end started and slowly follow the high side. I'm just gonna get some gloves on. I think I got enough pressure to work with here without a hammer, but just get the gloves so we can apply a tiny more pressure without slipping. And we might end up tapping this one in, guys, so it's good that I recorded this because there's another trick for this one. You're going to use, rather than a hammer, use the butt of a screwdriver. And same thing, very, very gentle light taps the whole time. This one's a little watery. You want to make sure the screwdriver is small enough that it's not going to damage that outer flange there. What do we got? We may use something a little smaller. I don't know if I got a screwdriver small enough for that. Will that work? This won't work, guys. And just light baby taps. Does not take a lot to get this one pressed on there. More patience than anything. Yeah, that's already almost seated now, guys. And just keep an eye on it and make sure the other side's not lifting. Alright, that one's pretty well seated. Side, and then I'll give you guys a shot. And this one, guys, this one isn't like the other seal where it spins. This is a stationary seal. It's actually, this rubber seal spins against the actual axle housing. So definitely throw a little grease on this, throw a little grease on the inside of your housing. That'll obviously help prevent wear on this, and it'll fill that gap that will eventually arise when you wear this, and hopefully trap most of the dirt in the grease, because it is a lot easier to wipe some dirty grease up and re-grease than it is to pull this whole assembly apart again down the road to have to clean your axle tube out. So I'll give you guys a quick shot of this. And then I've already showed you guys both sides of this now. So it's just the same process on the other axle. And it's a lot easier because the next axle, wherever the heck I put it. But yeah, the next one's the short axle. Where the hell did I put that axle? There it is. Yeah, that one's a lot easier to work with. So yeah, same thing, that small inner seal that we just finished doing on this one, and they're ready to go in the truck. So there it is. See, you'll see tiny little gaps there that almost make you feel like it's not seated, but if you come down on this angle and look a little closer, it's totally seated. It's just little rusty spots, because like I said, this one doesn't, it's stationary, right? It's completely stationary. That's why they have all the little rubber holes go into the steel there, so that this doesn't want to spin on this. It's only supposed to spin on the actual housing. All right, so I'm gonna put these together, guys. I'll get it back in the truck, and maybe if we run into any issues, well, I'll just show you me sliding it in the truck so that we can have a full, complete video of reassembly. Because, yeah, that thrust washer does sit in here. But I looked underneath and that gap looked a little bigger than it should be. I mean, obviously as those spin, or once you put the hub on, it'll seat all this a little better. But yeah, no, this is supposed to be flush. So bang those guys down flush. You do still have your thrust washer that sits there, but I guess that is supposed to be a flush seat. So if it needs to be more than flush, it will get pressed when you put your hub on. All right, yeah, so I was semi-right. So you do have a tiniest little groove there for your thrust washer. You can't, like, looking forward, it almost looks like it's seated, but you get a tiny little groove in there. It's enough that your fingernail will pick up on it if you go like this. That's it though. Same deal on this one. Just enough to seat that thrust washer. Otherwise it's pretty well flat. And the rest will get, if there is anything that needs to go a little further, it will be pressed when you go to cinch your hubs down. All right, well, both the axles are rebuilt, minus the ball joint, because it's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that universal or this one. But yeah, we got the seals back on, so I consider that a rebuilt axle for both of them, because like I said, ball joints are done, nothing wrong with the universals. So I'm gonna grease these up, get this greased, throw a little grease on this, and then on the hub on the truck, and yeah, let's get them slid in, guys. I'll meet you at the truck, and we'll, after I get these oiled, I'll meet you at the, or greased, I'll meet you at the truck, and we'll slide them in. All right, we're out at the truck. Make sure you lay your axle down on an old shirt or something. So I'm gonna apply a thin amount on the inside of this just to help us slide in. And this is the part I was talking about, where this seal is stationary, and that stationary seal actually rubs against this, and as you can see, they all tend to corrode and rust. So if you're gonna dump a shitload of grease anywhere, this is where I'd suggest to do it, right in that whole track there, because it ain't gonna hurt nothing, and it's gonna do nothing but good for it. So I only got one hand. I'm gonna have to prop this up, and then we will get to work. I'm just gonna do what you can. All right, that should work. So I'm gonna start by greasing this furthest back piece so it's out of the way, and I don't have to be screwing around in here no more. And like I said, guys, don't cheap out on the grease in this spot. If anything needs a lot of it, this is it. You always see these seals go. You know, it doesn't matter what you do, these seals go after about 2 years. But with that being said, you can do your best job to try and make them last as long as possible. Alright, so rather than wiping this grease off on the towel, I'm gonna actually take it and use it up here. You can see right here, this clear spot, this is your inner bearing inside your differential. This is what your inner bearing rides on, and we're not gonna open that up today and re-grease it, so best shot at getting some grease into that would be to try and get some of it in front of this area here on that thinner spot. It'll kind of plug it in. And I always do a tiny little bit. I know these are supposed to lock together, but I find if there is any looseness or play between these pins, if it's just air, it gets hit a lot harder, and it starts to, they'll start to micro smash every time you give it gas, and even if it's microscopic, it adds up and it'll start to bend your shaft, or sorry, your pins here. Whereas if you got it filled with grease, it'll fill that gap and keep everything tight. So keep that in mind. Don't forget to grease that spot. And whatever's left over on your hand, might as well just scrape it off on this, because we already loaded the crap out of that spot anyway. Alright, so do a little grease in here. And this is the part where you start crossing your fingers that everything's gonna go together smoothly. Let's see how lucky we get here, guys. And you gotta go about halfway in through the axle housing. So before this will actually plug in and go to the slider. So try and hold this as straight as possible until you hit that slider, because you don't want to be digging this tip into all the junk and crap in there. So what I like to do, I'll set it here first before this contacts anything, reset my arm, which unfortunately on this side I actually gotta kind of be in front of you guys, but you reach through here, grab it, and then don't worry about getting greased up. You're gonna get dirty, guys, you're mechanicing, but feed it through until you'll feel it hit that guide, which it just did right now. Once you hit that guide, you're good. Now, next thing before we go any further, now that we're in that guide, because you just dumped a bunch of dirt on the inside of this, right? From this dirty knuckle. So you're gonna want to come in from the back side, scrape out any big chunks, and then we're gonna start sliding this in. All right, here, fingers crossed, guys. Let's hope this just slides right in. Wouldn't that be nice? And it is. Look at that. Beautiful. Beauty. That's it. She's in. Whatever's left here will be sucked in when you go to put your hub on. If you want to try and tap it in a little further, you could use the back of a screwdriver. You know what? I'll just do it so we can get a shot of it. I'll tap it in all the way. It's not necessary, but let's get it done anyway. All right, this is probably way too small of a screwdriver, but I'll try it. It shouldn't take much convincing now that it's here. Yeah, that's going. Hang on, I'm gonna get my bigger screwdriver, guys. 1 second. This is my go-to for beat the hell out of it flathead. So, yep, and we're clearing that one lip, so we're good. Oh, it looks like a little on the bottom and we are fully seated. A little bit of junk in there. Oh, it's a chunk of the screwdriver handle. We don't want to leave any screwdriver handle in there. A little grease will get it to stick on. Grease is a wonderful thing. See that, guys? A little grease on your screwdriver, you can pick up anything. Anything reasonable size anyway. Yeah, we are almost in. A couple more hits on the bottom. And we're fully seated. Couple love taps all the way around. Just some little equalization taps. Make sure she's all equal, and that's it, guys. Check it out. That is fully seated in there. Gotta, hang on, I gotta change. All right, so fully seated all the way around. Turns beautifully. That's exactly what it should. And look at that. Now you guys will see why I was saying to use so much grease back here. See that, how it sits there? Literally, it's friction, right? The only thing it's riding on in there is that grease. So without that big layer of grease, you're just gonna cook that brand new seal off in a month. And now that you guys know how all that works, you've seen it pulled apart, it wouldn't hurt you to climb under your truck once a month and grease the living piss out of that spot, because it ain't gonna hurt nothing. Like I said, you're never gonna hurt it. You're just gonna prolong the life of it. And having a little grease mess there is a hell of a lot better than having a tube full of mud. So yeah, on to the next side, I guess, guys.